Welcome to Families Are First Teachers, a video series designed to support families who are supporting learners at home. Presently, many families are finding themselves helping their children navigate remote schoolwork. Some caregivers say that they are feeling like substitute teachers for their own kids these days. However, what we know about families is that they are children's first and often best teachers. These short videos are designed by experts in curriculum and instruction, behavior, and special education from Summit Educational Service Center and State Support Team Region 8, with the goal of empowering family members for the new teaching roles they find themselves in. I am Missy Zender-Sakach, and I am the Science, STEM, Health, and Physical Education Consultant in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction at Summit Educational Service Center. My module will show parents how to support STEM-minded students to encourage a love of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So do you recognize this scientist, this very, very famous scientist? He had said, and one of his very famous quotes is, "I never think of the future. It comes soon enough." However, right now, I think we're all thinking of the future. Maybe you've even spent quite a bit of time thinking of your own child's future. Maybe what they're going to become, what their career will be, what their job will be, or just maybe how they're going to do in school in the next 6 months. Einstein, the very famous scientist that we know him as, we all know that he had an amazing talent for math. We also might know that he helped with the family business, which was electricity generation. And he had access to lots and lots of scientific equipment. And he was able to practice and to work on his physics explorations for most of his early childhood. He was very interested in studying the mysteries of heat and electricity. But what you might not know is that he really was a late developer. He suffered from echolalia, which led him to repeat over and over again other people's spoken words. He was bullied, he was nicknamed the dopey one. And as a result, he kind of was a daydreamer and tried to escape his surroundings. At the early age of 15, after his father's business suffered bankruptcy, he left to pursue his own career. We all think that Einstein was a famous, gifted scientist, and he was, but he had many challenges that he was growing up with, and we all have those challenges. But one of the things we can do is if we want to inspire our children to be STEM-minded, we can teach them how to think like Einstein. One thing we really want to do is encourage them to be curious. Let them ask their questions and let them be passionate about whatever they want to be passionate about. We all know they ask many, many questions. Sometimes things like, why do the leaves fall from the trees? Or why is a rainbow all different colors? Or maybe, why does a ball bounce differently? So as you're answering those questions, they don't have to be as intense as the ones that Einstein asked on light. It's just important to encourage those and to also challenge them to find those answers to those really big questions on their own. It's also important that we encourage them to investigate the natural world around them, the secrets of nature. Einstein was highly motivated by nature. By the age of 12, he was figuring out the mathematical relationships between natural occurrences and physics. He wanted to know what lay behind all of those natural wonders. It's important that we help kids observe carefully. And sometimes that can just be with simple things, like maybe a simple pet like this one. This, these are pretty special creatures. These are mealworms. These mealworms are something that is very simple. You can purchase them at any bait store or any pet store. They cost about $3 a dozen, and they are a lot of fun to observe. But the most exciting thing is they change all the time. So they get to a point where you will find ones that they start to look almost like they're dormant, and you can explore them. And then they go through a really significant metamorphosis and they start to become another creature. They shed their skin, which can be seen right here, and then they become a larva. And they look very like almost like you can start to see the eyes on this larva. After they go through a larva stage, they become something that we would recognize in the environment, this very special beetle. Something super simple that kids could observe. All it takes is a container of oatmeal and a little bit of paper towel with water or a potato. And they are fun to watch, and your kids would really probably enjoy just observing carefully and being able to observe. You also want to make sure that you guide them through their homework, especially things like their science homework or their STEM homework. You don't want to just do it for them, but to guide them. But something you might not know is even Einstein, with everything that he had, all of his natural abilities, he had people who supported him. He had professors and tutors and that showed him that hard work was what mattered, because he was really what they considered a lazy dog when he was young. But that lazy dog grew up to be an adult that was so engrossed in his work that he often forgot to eat lunch. And he had favorites, of course. Some of his favorites were sausages and ice cream, things that all kids love. So I share that just because sometimes it takes a little while for kids to grow in science or in STEM because those subjects are often quite difficult. Also, as a parent, I'm sure we have all run into situations where maybe we don't even understand our kids' homework. So it's really important that you help your kids seek out like minds and help them not make unnecessary enemies. Einstein liked to work alone, but he had many different friends that had many interests. Anything from being Sigmund Freud, a psychologist, to being Charlie Chaplin, who was a comedian, or to looking at the famous Marie Curie, famous scientist that he surrounded himself with. So it's important that the kids know to have friends and also to make time for your whole family to unwind and be together and do something fun, to have hobbies that are related to STEM. So, for example, Einstein loved sailing. It took him out into the nature that he loved, but it also taught him a lot about wind and weather. And he also said if he wasn't a physicist, he'd be a musician or an artist. So it is always important to find things that you can do as a family. To make sure that your kids are trained to be independent thinkers and to act independently, but to know that they still have to work together with the community. And I think we all know as we've been going through COVID-19 and this pandemic, the community is probably one of the most important things for the community of scientists. Immerse yourself in STEM. Find ways to see the world differently. Maybe you want to go and volunteer at a park or a nature center. Maybe see if you could get your kids in to work with a scientist in a lab or Skype with a university professor who's studying something special. Immerse yourself in STEM and look for it out in our environment. Make sure, too, that you're investigating all the ways things are engineered in our worlds and designed in our worlds, whatever those may be, agriculture, products, their own sound systems, their TVs, whatever that might be, to look at that Challenge them to be able to look at things differently and use their imagination. For example, maybe they've never heard of a square bubble before. So I have this nice little frame, and there's lots of simple things. I'm sure they've played with bubbles many times in their life, but maybe they've never seen the mathematics of bubbles, and they've only seen maybe a round bubble. So maybe this is an opportunity then to see a square bubble. And it would just take some simple bubble solution and a shape of a square. And slowly, as we fill the sides of the square in with bubble solution, we will see that we will be able to make ourselves a square bubble. And I will pull it up, and you should be able to see that square bubble. So you yourself could encourage your kids to make other shapes, to be able maybe to make a triangle. And all it takes is something simple like this. It's just pipe cleaners, straws put together, and they can learn not only mathematics and the shapes of things, but learn how to challenge their beliefs and to look at things maybe in a different way. Imagination is always more important than knowledge. Knowledge is always limited. Einstein taught us so much about the universe around us, and I hope that you'll be able to teach your kids just as much about the world around you. If you need some support, these are excellent sites. There's one from the National Science Teachers Organization to give resources for parents. If you want to look for a lot of simple experiments to do with your kids that use household items, helping your child learn science is a great resource. Commonsense.org is where you can find safe, secure, juried sites for your kids, and the top picks for science are listed there. And then if you ever want to involve your kids in helping real scientists, there's an organization called Children Helping Science. I hope that these resources will come in handy as you work with your kids to become more and more STEM-minded. We thank you for all that you do, and this concludes this module on supporting STEM-minded students. Thank you for joining us. If you found this video helpful, you can find additional ones just like it on the Summit ESC YouTube channel. Just visit YouTube and search for Summit ESC. There you'll find additional brief videos on self-care and social emotional needs, supports for diverse learners, developing a growth mindset, and academic content supports. We hope these videos provide some new ideas, resources, and tips for supporting your learners at home and in life. Thank you so much.